The next 10 or 12 pages were filled with a curious series of entries. There was a date at one end of the line and at the other a sum of money, as in common accounts books, but instead of explanatory writings, only a varying number of crosses between the two. On the 12th of June, 1745, for instance, a sum of £70 had plainly become due to someone, and there was nothing but 6 crosses to explain the cause. In a few cases, to be sure, the name of a place would be added, as of Caracas, or a mere entry of latitude and longitude as 62 17 minutes 20 seconds 19 2 minutes 40 seconds. The record lasted over nearly 20 years, the amount of the separate entries growing larger as the time went on, and at the end of a grand total had been made out after 5 or 6 wrong additions, and these words appended: Bones his pile. I can't make head or tails of this, said the doctor nicely. The thing is as clear as Moondale, cried the squire. This is a back-hearted hound's account book. These crosses stand for the names of ships or towns that they sank or plundered. The sums are the scoundrel's share, and where he feared an ambiguity, you see he added something clearer. Off Caracas now, you see. Here was some unhappy vessel boarded off that coast. God help the poor souls that met her. Coral long ago. Right, said the doctor. See what it is to be a traveler. Right, and then amounts increased, you see, as he rose in rank. There was little else in the volume, but a few bearings of places noted in the blank leaves towards the end, and a table for reducing French, English, Spanish money to a common value. Thrifty man, cried the doctor. He wasn't the one to be cheated. And now, said the squire, for the other. The paper had been sealed in several places, with a thimble by way of seal, the very thimble, perhaps, that I had found in the captain's pocket. The doctor opened the seals with great care, and there fell out the map of an island, with latitude and longitude, soundings, names of hills and bays and inlets, the very particular that would be needed to bring a ship to a safe anchorage upon its shores. It was about 9 miles long and 5 across, shaped, you might say, like a fat dragon standing up, and had 2 fine land-locked harbors, and a hill in the center part marked the spyglass. There were several additions of a later date, but above all, 3 crosses of red ink, 2 on the north part of the island, 1 in the southwest, and beside this last, the same red ink, and in a small neat hand, very different from the captain's tottery characters, these words: bulk of treasure here. Over on the back of the same hand had written the further information: tall tree, spyglass shoulder, bearing a point of the N, of N and E, skeleton, island, ESE, and by E. 10 feet. The bar silver is in the north cachet. You can find it by the trend of the east hummock, 10 fathom south of the black crag, with the face on it. The arms are easy found, and the sand hill, and points of north inlet cape, bearing E and a quarter N, J, F. That was all, but brief as it was, and to me incomprehensible. It filled the squire and the doctor lively with delight. Livesey, said the squire, will you give up this wretched practice at once? Tomorrow I start for Bristol. In 3 weeks' time, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 10 days. We will have the best ship, sir, and the choicest crew in England. Hawkins shall come as a cabin boy. You'll make a famous cabin boy, Hawkins. You lazy as a ship's doctor. I am admiral. will take Ruthud, Joyce, and Hunter, will have favorable winds and a quick passage, and not the least difficulty in finding the spot, the money to eat, to roll in, to play duck and to drink with ever after. Trilevne, said the doctor. I'll go with you, and I'll go bail for it. So will Jim, and be a credit to the undertaking. There's only one man I'm afraid of. And who's that, sir? Cried the squire. Name the dog, sir. You, replied the doctor, for you cannot hold your tongue. You are not the only man. You are not the only man who know about this paper. These fellows who tucked in tonight, bold desperate blades for sure, and the rest who stayed aboard that lugger, and more, I dare say, not far off, are one and all, through thick and thin, bound that they'll get the money. We must none of us go alone till we get to sea. Jim and I shall stick together in the meanwhile, while you take Joyce and Hunter when you ride to Bristol. And from first to last, not one of us must break the word of what we found. Livesey, returned the squire, you are always in the right of it. I'll be as silent as the grave. Part 2. The Sea Cook. I go to Bristol. It was longer than the squire imagined. We were ready for the sea. In none of our first plans, not even Dr. Livesey's, of keeping me beside him, could be carried out as we intended. The doctor had to go to London for a physician to take charge of his practice. The squire was hard at work at Bristol, and I lived at the hall under the charge of old Redruth, a gamekeeper, almost a prisoner, but full of sea dreams and most charming anticipations of strange islands and adventures. I brooded by the hour together over the map, all the details of which I well remembered. Sitting by the fire in the housekeeper's room, I approached that island in my fancy from every possible direction. I explored every acre of its surface. I climbed 1,000 times on that tall hill they call the Spyglass, and from the top enjoyed the most wonderful and changing prospects. Sometimes the isle was thick with savages, with whom we fought, sometimes full of dangerous animals that hunted us. But in all my fancies, nothing occurred to me so strange and tragic as our actual adventures. So the weeks passed on, till one fine day there came a letter addressed to Dr. Livesey, with this addition: to be opened in the case of his absence by Tom Redruth or young Hawkins. Obeying this order we found, or rather I found, for the housekeeper was a poor hand at reading anything but print, the following important news. Old Anchor in Bristol, March 1st, 17. Dear Livesey, as I do not know whether you are at the Hall or still in London, I send this in double to both places. The ship is bought and fitted. She lies at anchor ready for sea. You never imagined a sweeter schooner. A child might sail her 200 tons. Name, Hispaniola. I got her through my old friend Bluntsley, who had proved himself throughout the most surprising trumps. The admirable fellow literally slaved in my interest, and so, I may say, did everyone in Bristol. As soon as they got wind of the port we sailed for Treasure Alley. Redruth, said I, interrupted the letter. Dr. Livesey will not like that. The squire has been talking, after all. Well, who's a better right? Growled the gamekeeper. A pretty rum go if squire ain't to talk. For Dr. Livesey, I should think. At that I gave up all attempts at commentary and read straight on. Blending himself found the Hispaniola, and by the most admirable management got her for the merest trifle. There is a class of men in Bristol, monstrously prejudiced against bluntly. They go the length of declaring that his owner's creature would do anything for money, then that Hispaniola belonged to him, and that he sold it me absolutely high. The most transparent calumnies. None of them dare, however, to deny the merits of the ship. So far, there was not a hitch. The workpeople, to be sure, riggers and what not, were mostly annoyingly slow, but time cured that. It was the crew that troubled me. I wished a round score of men, in case of natives, buccaneers, or odious French, and I had the worry of the deuce itself to find so much as half a dozen, till the most remarkable stroke of fortune brought me the very man that I required. I was standing on the dock when, by the merest accident, I fell in talk with him. I found he was an old sailor, kept a public house, knew all the seafaring men in Bristol, had lost his health ashore, and wanted a good berth as cook to get to sea again. He was hobbled down there that morning, he said, to get a smell of the salt. I was monstrously touched. So would you have been, and out of the pure pity, I engaged him on the spot to be the ship's cook. Long John Silver he was called, and has lost a leg, but that I regard it as a recommendation, since he lost it in his country's service under the immortal Hawke. He has no pension, Livesey. Imagine the abominable age we live in. Well, sir, I thought I had only found a cook, but it was a crew that I had discovered. Between Silver and myself, we got together in a few days a company of the toughest old salt imaginable. Not pretty to look at, but fellows by their faces of the most indomitable spirit. I declare we could fight a frigate. Long John even got rid of 2 out of the 6 or 7 that I had already engaged. He showed me in a moment that they were just the sort of freshwater swabs we had to fear in the adventure of importance. I am in the most magnificent health and spirits, eating like a bull, sleeping like a tree, yet I shall not enjoy a moment till I hear my old tarpaulins tramping around the capstan. Seaward, ho! Hang the treasure! It's the glory of the sea that has turned my head. So now, Livesey, compost, do not lose an hour if you respect me. Let young Hawkins go at once to see his mother, with Redruth for a guard, and then we come full speed, and both come full speed to Bristol. John tried away. Postscript. I did not tell you that Blandley, who, by the way, is to send a consort after us if we don't turn up by the end of August, had found an admirable fellow for sailing master, a stiff man, which I regret, but in all other respect a treasure. Long John Silver unearthed a very competent man for a mate, a man named Arrow. I have a boatswain who pipes Livesey, so things shall go man o' war fashion on board the good ship Hispaniola. I forgot to tell you that Silver is a man of substance. I know of my own knowledge that he has a bankers account which has never been overdrawn. He leaves his wife to manage the inn, and as she is a woman of color, a pair of old bachelors like you and I might be excused for guessing that it is the wife quite as much as the health that sends him back to rolling. J.T. P.P.S. Hawkins may stay one night with his mother. J.T. You can fancy the excitement into which that letter put me. I was half beside myself with glee, and if I ever despised a man, it was the old Tom Redruth. I could do nothing but grumble and lament. If any of the under gamekeepers would gladly have changed places with him, but such was not the squire's pleasure, and the squire's pleasure was like low among them all. Nobody but old Redruth would have dared so much as even to grumble. The next morning he and I set out on foot for the Admiral Benbow, and there I found my mother in good health and spirits. The captain, who had so long been a cause of so much discomfort, was gone where the wicked ceased from troubling. The squire had had everything repaired, and the public rooms and the sign repainted, and had all added some furniture, above all a beautiful armchair for mother in the bar. He had found her a boy as an apprentice, also so that he should not want help while I was gone. It was on seeing that boy that I understood for the first time my situation. I had thought up to that moment of the adventures before me, not at all of home that I was leaving, and now, at the sight of this clumsy stranger, who was to stay here in my place beside my mother, I had my first attack of tears. I am afraid I let that boy a dog's life, for as he was new to the work, I had 100 opportunities of setting him right and putting him down, and I was not slow to profit by them. The night passed, and the next day, after dinner, Redruth and I were afoot again on the road. I said goodbye to mother, and the cove where I had lived since I was born, and the dear old Admiral Benbow, since it was re-painted, no longer quite so dear. One of my last thoughts was of the captain, who had so often strolled along the beach with his crooked head, his saber-cut cheek, and his old brass telescope. Next moment, we had turned the corner, and my house was out of sight. The mail picked us up about dusk at the Royal George on the heath. I was wedged in between Redruth and a stout old gentleman, and in spite of the swift motion and the cold night air, I must have dozed a great deal from the very first, and then slept like a dog, like a log, up the hill and down Dale through stage after stage, for when I was awakened, at last it was by a punch in the ribs, and I opened my eyes to find that we were standing still before a large building in a city street, and that the day had already broken a long time. Where are we? I asked. Bristol, said Tom. Get down. Mr. Trelawney had taken up his residence in an inn far down the docks to superintend the work upon the schooner. Thither we had now to walk, and our way, to my great delight, lay along the quays and beside the great multitude of ships of all sizes and rigs and nations. In one, sailors were singing at their work; in another, there were men aloft, high over my head, hanging to threads that seemed no thicker than spiders. Though I had lived by the shore all my life, I seemed never to have been near the sea till then. The smell of tar and salt was something new. I saw the most wonderful figureheads that had all been far over the ocean. I saw besides many old sailors with reins in their ears and whiskers curled in ringlets and tarred pigtails, and their swaggering, clumsy sea walk. And if I had seen as many kings and archbishops, I could not have been more delighted. And I was going to see myself, to sea in a schooner, with a piping boatswain and a pigtailed singing seaman to sea, bound for an unknown island and to seek for buried treasure. While I was still in this delightful dream, I came suddenly in front of a large inn and met Squire Trelawney, all dressed out like a sea officer, in stout blue cloth, coming out of the door with a smile on his face and a capital imitation of a sailor's walk. "Here you are," he cried, "and the doctor came last night from London. Bravo! The ship ship's company complete. Oh, sir, cried I, when do we sail? Sail? Says he. We sail tomorrow.